Hello and welcome to the brand new Audi S6. It's like an A6, except it's faster. Whee! And interestingly, that whee noise is actually similar to one of the noises that this engine makes. Now that sounds very weird, but hear me out. This is the first car I've ever driven which has an electric compressor on the turbocharging system. And it literally makes like a sort of a whistle, like a, it's hard to describe. I'll show you later. If you do come across an S6, it's worth taking a look inside the engine bay just to see how complicated this motor is. There are just wires everywhere. It looks like if you have a breakdown, you're going to need a bomb technician and not a mechanic. There's a 48-volt electric system which recuperates electricity, shoves that into the battery. Then the battery powers an electric compressor. So downstream from the turbochargers, there's this electric compressor which creates compression at a much lower speed than the turbochargers. This cancels out turbo lag, and in 250 milliseconds, you've got cool air being forced into the intercooler and into your engine. Audi says that's faster than the average human reaction speed. And so what you have is a turbocharged engine which doesn't feel like a turbocharged engine. And what this means out on the road is that you have a very linear feel to the acceleration. Audi wants us to feel like a naturally aspirated engine. And I've got to be honest, it really does. This system really does work. I mean, it sounds very complicated, and I'm sure that if it breaks, it's very expensive, but this is progress. The turbocharger's been around for a long time. This is innovation. I'm on board for this sort of thing. Very cool. But interestingly, it doesn't give you any more power or torque. This is the exact same engine you get in the Audi RS5 and Audi RS4. It's a 2.9 litre twin turbocharged V6 with 331 kilowatts, 600 Newton meters of torque. For our international audience, we'll put some figures here, around here, in whatever metrics you use, so that you don't shout at me in the comments. But that results in a 0 to 100 time of 4.5 seconds, and it is exactly the same power and torque as you get in the Audi RS5 and Audi RS4. Okay, wait, before we go on, let me try and show you that weird sound I was talking about earlier. The best way to demonstrate what this little electric compressor sounds like is when the car is stationary and you give it a little bit of a rev. So listen to this. I hope you can hear this. That is one of the strangest sounds I've ever heard an engine make. A little bird. Weird. When I went to fetch this car yesterday, it was the first time I'd set eyes on the new Audi A6. And it is a really imposing car, this. I think Audi are finally starting to put a little bit of aggression into their designs. Their previous designs have been a bit forgettable, but this one has a lot of presence on the road. And my immediate reaction was, holy moly, that car is massive. But funnily enough, it's only 7 millimeters longer than the A6 that it replaces and 13 millimeters wider. So it really is just the trick of the design language that they're using which makes it look so much bigger. But because it has so much presence on the road, it sort of gives you that feeling of status. You know, like you've arrived. I think if I was a member of the Italian mafia and I really wanted a German car, this is the one I would have. You know what's funny is my name is Ciro Roberto De Siena. I don't speak Italian and I can't even do an Italian accent. Like right now I could make a joke about being in the Italian mafia, you know, and putting on that accent, but then I just sound like a Panarotti's advert. So I will spare you. I'll spare you that.
This being an Audi, it obviously has a fantastic interior. This is pretty much the interior you'll get in the new Q8, and that's not a bad thing. It's also incredibly well made and put together. And for the new A6 range, Audi have focused on making the cabin a lot roomier, and you can really feel it.
As you might expect in a car that is almost 5 meters long, the boot is massive, 530 liters, which is exactly the same as the BMW 5 Series and a tiny bit smaller than the Mercedes-Benz E-Class. But imagine how much boot space you could have if South Africans could buy the Audi A6 wagon, which you can't because all of you are anti-station wagonists, and now we can't have nice things. Now, this being a modern sort of sports car, sedan, saloon thing, it has driving modes, which you select down here on this new fancy dual touchscreen system, which Audi have implemented from the Q8 and the A7. So you got 3 modes, no, you got 4 modes. Comfort, Auto, Dynamic, and Individual, where you can play with the settings yourself. I've just been leaving it in Auto because then it responds to your driving style. And it sets up the air suspension to basically provide a magic carpet ride. This is definitely one of the best suspension systems I've experienced in a long time. And even though this particular unit is driving on larger 21-inch wheels and tires, on all but the worst roads, it literally feels like you're floating. It's absolutely brilliant. And that means that this car is the sort of car that you want to do long distances in. And you've got the power, if you're on the Autobahn, to keep up with all the other bellends on the Autobahn with their powerful motors doing 250 kilometers an hour. But the problem is that in South Africa, we don't have an Autobahn. We have a speed limit restriction of 120 k's an hour, and we have a lot of very enthusiastic traffic cops. And that means that the Audi S6's talents are pretty much wasted in this country. What you're ending up with here is a big, comfortable car that's a little bit difficult to park around town. But hear me out here. If you're the sort of person who likes to go on long distance family holidays, this is a better car to own than an SUV. And there's a couple of reasons for that. 1, the boot is massive. 2, everyone in here will be more comfortable and more rested when they get to their destination, and then you'll have less arguments. See? There we go. I've just improved your entire life. What I always find odd about these sort of middle performance models, it's not an RS6 and it's not a normal A6. It's got that S badge, which makes it seem a bit more special and allows Audi to charge you a lot more for the car. But is it a sporty car? Is it a sports car? Is it the sort of car you want to chuck up a mountain pass and attack some corners? I really don't think it is. I mean, when we were talking about filming this car, we were like, oh, let's go to a mountain pass. But after spending 2 days in it, it's just not that sort of car. Yes, it has all-wheel drive. Yes, it has a very clever ESC system. It will get you around some corners safely. But it's a very large car. It's a very heavy car. This is what it's designed for. Cross-country cruising.
Yes, if I had to drive 500 miles and then drive 500 more just to be the man who drove 1,000 miles to fall down at someone's door, this would be a great car to do it in.
Did you know that we also sell really awesome car-themed merchandise? Check out our range of custom t-shirts and prints at our online store now. Simply click on the square box on your screen and we'll take you there, or the link is in the description below. Thanks for watching.